morning and welcome to the chat on Newsday Amarillo and News Channel 10-2. I'm David Lovejoy.
Hello, I'm Rhonda Lahnert.
And I'm Chuckalicious Chuck Williams.
And join us, the top buff. Busy weekend for this guy. Yeah, he's got it going on this weekend. Our friend Dr. Walter Wendler from West Texas A&M University. A big weekend down on the campus of WT, did Dr. Wendler?
It is a big one, and we're looking forward to it. And I'm glad to kind of kick it off with you guys. I can feel it building. It starts today, right into this. Until Sunday, it's nonstop. So
yeah.
Well, you always have a ton of things going on at the university, and it's all good stuff. And here's one topic, though, that I really hadn't thought about. We had some WT researchers that were a part of a study, and it was about cyberbullying against educators. Never thought of it this way. So talk to us a little bit about this that went on and what they found.
You know, the news is filled with things that are difficult for me to understand or explain, and this is another one. And thankfully, this idea that students would or family members would, I'll say, cyberbully educators, teachers, faculty is shocking to me. I think in the where we live in the Panhandle here, I think there's a different kind of respect for authority. Even when there's disagreement, there's a hierarchy of things. You know, the principal is the principal, and the teacher is the teacher. And I think, by and large, students, both in primary and secondary schools and in universities, are taught, look, be respectful of these people. They've gone through a process. They're placed in authority over you, and you know, pay attention to them. And the idea of attacking or trying to diminish or demean folks is just, it's not part of the culture here, by and large. That's not to say that there isn't some of this going on, but I don't hear much about it on our campus except for this study. And I think it's shocking to find out that this is a problem in some places.
Do you think that with this essence of cyberbullying, is it more or less towards female professors or teachers or male professors or teachers? Is there a predominance?
Yeah, there is. And what this study showed, and I've read it, but I read a lot of these things, and I may not have the numbers exactly right, but I think the frequency is that about nearly 30% of the cyberbullying that occurs, it occurs 30% more likely to occur with female teachers and faculty. And I don't know if the perception is that somehow you could get away with it with a female. I don't know exactly what drives it. It's so far out of my sort of wheelhouse about what's appropriate. I'm old-fashioned, and I just don't think that's right to treat somebody. Now, if somebody mistreats you or you're perceived you're mistreated by a faculty member or a teacher in any setting, there's a way to deal with that. For universities, just a quick, I've had cases where students have felt that they weren't treated fairly by a faculty member. They come to see me as a department head, as a dean, as a president and a chancellor. They've actually come to see me. And the first thing I ask them, because they're adults, they're in college now, and, you know, by definition, largely adults. And I ask them, have you talked to the faculty member? And if they haven't, I said, do you feel comfortable to go talk with the faculty member? If they haven't, I say, well, go talk to the department head. Talk to the next person in line then. You've gone too far up in a sense, pecking order here.
Right.
And get closer to where the action occurs. And I just think this is good practice in any setting for any issue. Go to where the problem is and address it honestly and openly. And I just think it's a shame when it doesn't work that way.
Dr. Wendler, one of the first things I did when I was asked to work in the newsroom here was get to meet Mr. Paul Engler when he dedicated a great award on the college. And over those years, or since that time, Really nice man. I just so accommodating. He told me after when he did dedication of the money for the business school and the ag school, he said, "You got any questions? Call me." Called him and just was a gracious man and nice man, but really cared about agriculture, cared about business, and really cared about WT. You want to share some thoughts on Paul Engler, his legacy in with West Texas A&M and in this area?
Yes, I'd be pleased to. And for me, first and foremost, I mean, I count Paul a friend. We visited quite a bit, and he'd read a column that I'd written, and he'd send me, "No, boy, that was a good one," or that kind of thing. And we'd go back and forth on matters. And once in a while, when he was on campus, he was very unassuming. He would be visiting with one of the deans, and he might call and say, "Hey, has President Wendler got a chance for or a little bit of time for me to visit?" And so on and so forth. So that kind of personality I always appreciated. But I won't say even more than that, but equal to that was his commitment to, I'm going to call it free market entrepreneurism. That was a man that was willing to take a risk. I tell people sometimes, and I'm not expert in this, but I'm willing to say it. He actually invented the concept of the contemporary or modern feedlot. And if he didn't invent it, he perfected it. And the way people look at fed beef and its contribution to society and so on, he had a big view of all that. And that has helped our regional local and regional economies in a very powerful way, because as you know, you've heard me say many times, this region produces 30% of the beef that's consumed in America every day. 3 out of 10 Big Macs are coming out of Hereford or this region. I mean, think about it in that I mean, that's where that stuff is coming from. And I just, it's remarkable. And he was willing to take risks. And that's how I define entrepreneurism, being willing to take a risk and appreciate a free market system that basically supports risk. It allows that to happen. And, our founders, I think, were ingenious in this. No debtors' prisons in the United States. Bankruptcy was when legitimately people would legitimately leverage their own funds and personal wealth and so on. If there was a loss, you could declare bankruptcy. And people, there's one of these federal loan, student loan things. People say, well, we should be able to declare bankruptcy because of student loans, and they've said no. And in some ways, I think that's not a bad idea, because a lot of students would say, well, I'll just, I can't pay this, and I'm just going to say, can't do it. So Paul sort of embodied, I think, a very straightforward, pragmatic view of investment and risk and so on. And I think that hands down is what the most important contribution he's made to our region. And he was very heartily committed to West Texas A&M University. He really liked what went on here. And by the way, David, you mentioned agriculture and engineering, and he did like those things, but he was present at a lot of other kinds of events on the campus, cultural events, symphony, choral, he came out to a lot of things. He came to football games. He came to a lot of things. Couldn't come to everything. I can't get to everything. I get it sometimes. Well, we didn't see you here. We didn't see you there. Well, I can't be two places at the same time. It was just too much going on. But he was very, very faithful in his support of all things WT, and we always appreciated that.